Yeah. So what do you think it means to be a good man? What all those things? Um,
You
okay, so
got
let
it.
me get these straight. So I would love to learn more about radical vulnerability. That
Yeah.
sounds really interesting. I would also love to hear how you incorporate it into like speaking and presentation, and the work you're doing there. So yeah, tell me about radical vulnerability. What does that mean?
Awesome. Thank you, Henry. Radical vulnerability means to make the choice to be as authentic as you can in any given moment. And that's just something like I was on a podcast, like I think of my first or second podcast ever. And I was just chilling with these two guys and they're like, oh, that's radical vulnerability. I'm like, yeah, that's radical vulnerability. I like that, you know? Um, But it's just this thing about, for such a long time, because inside when we talk to people or even like when we talk to ourselves, right? We hear this voice, and depending on our narrative, depending on our background, maybe some trauma, our experiences, we may or may not say exactly what we want to say. And I know that can be, in certain spaces that could be like, well, why are you telling everyone to just say what they want to say? Because what about if what they want to say is like dangerous, right? I get it. But the thing is that, we all have these feelings, and I think the most important thing that I've learned when it ties in with my health as I get older, I don't want to be holding things back anymore.
Mm.
I waste um in some of my writing, I talk about, I waste about, not waste, but it took me about 36 years of my life to go, oh, I was kind of living it in fear
Mm.
and anxiety and worry without having those terminology.
What
And I
was
think,
the
yeah, go ahead.
I
Yeah.
was just wondering what was the spark that kind of led you towards finding this and making that transition?
Woo, what a great question. I love it. I love it. Um, I'm gonna drop his name because he's my best friend, my mentor, my best friend, my martial art instructor when I move out to LA. His name's Orpheus Black, and or Guru Orpheus Black as he goes by now. Um, what it was I didn't know, but what I needed the most after all the stuff that I've gone through, being, I was 30, I was like mid 30s when I moved out to LA. And I found this mixed martial art meetup group. We met at a park. And one night, my Orpheus hands me some boxing gloves, and he says, "Hey, do you want to spar?" Right? And so that's the beginning of our friendship. And I always share that story because that's the catalyst. But what it was it was I needed another male figure who could show me how how human and how okay it is to be vulnerable, but also not just like vulnerable, so when I say vulnerability, I mean all the aspects that make us human. So, you know, it's like I grew up thinking like being angry was a dangerous, scary thing, which it um when it's not like in the right, perspective, the right mindfulness, yes, it's very dangerous and also very selfish. But when it's channeled in a healthy way, so when we did martial arts, when we did boxing, like, was there anger at times? Yeah. But you learn how to channel that in a way where it's like a, the warrior spirit.
Mm.
And it's not like, he would always say, like when, because when someone punch you in the face, what's the first thing you want to do? I'm gonna punch him back in the face, right? And then he would say, "Man, like, you're always headhunting. We're like this pugilist, mentality, and we think like, oh, you hit me, I gotta hit you back." And what I realized is that nah, when you get really good at your craft, you hit me, and the next thing is I might just like, maneuver my way, or maybe I'll throw a punch, but I'm not trying to hit you. I'm setting you up for something else, right? So there's some strategy behind that. And I think when we're talking about being healthy people, healthy human beings, we need to have a process like that. We need to know, like, okay, I can be vulnerable, but I need to also like have all these things. So what we would talk about in martial arts is pressure testers, right? When you feel that pressure, I got a perfect example. 2 weeks ago, I was doing jujitsu. I have a different group that I work out with now because I'm not in LA anymore. But I was doing jitsu and jujitsu every Wednesday. Every Wednesday, I'm super uncomfortable. I go in like, man, I don't want to do this, but I do. So I'm so uncomfortable because it's not naturally me. I'm naturally, this is kind of scary, but I'm more naturally into like from Filipino martial arts, like breaking bones and then, counter, and like that and all that stuff. But what's beautiful that I'm learning in jujitsu is how do you control the situation without actually like having to punch or kick somebody, which is nice when we're talking about real fighting, like when you hit somebody, it's like, oh, they bend over, right? But how do you like maybe push their body? Now they're bending over, right? So that takes strategy, that takes practice.
Mm.
But you have to be vulnerable. You have to put yourself in these spaces that are super uncomfortable. Like when someone's laying flat on you, it's like, oh, I'm gonna die. And it's like, wait, maybe don't think about it. Maybe just let your body go, oh, wait, I'm not going to die. Well, then again, you have a coach that's like, okay, I'm not trying to kill you. So I'm going to lighten up a little bit. Right. But it gives you that moment for your brain to go, you know what? I can handle this pressure. Right. So to me, everything, the catalyst was meeting Orpheus, being around a male figure. He's just a couple years older than me. And also our culture, our races, he's a Black person and I'm, consider myself Asian American, and just that whole dynamic. So, I had to deal with all these narratives, these, I was thinking in the shower, like another thing about dealing with our past is it our story? Is it his story? Is it, that's what my mentor would say a lot, his story? Is it somebody else's story? And that to me, I think is the work that we have to do. And that sometimes can be very uncomfortable because we feel like I don't have the answers. But that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
Be vulnerable. It's okay. I have no idea. I've made a mistake. I screwed up. Please help, support, all these things that our voices inside already want to say, but we hold ourselves back from saying it. So
Yeah.
being around Orpheus really taught me just like, just be yourself. Like sometimes he would just say, what's on your mind? Just say it. Spit it
Yeah.
out. So yeah.
Cool. I mean, there's so many good themes in there. I think, and one I've come across before is just the theme of mentorship, having someone you respect, kind of looking after you, or at least being thoughtful in the way that they interact with you in a way that is guiding, self-improving, and then also just on the theme of martial arts, like it incorporates things like community. It incorporates things like bonding, and just because it's more male dominated, can be a space for guys to come together really constructively, positively. You're outside, you're being active, you're learning strategy, using your brain, using your body. So it's just really cool to hear all those components blend together. It also has really strong themes of mentorship and teaching and learning, discipline, order. which restraint, control. You mentioned
Yeah.
those, like channeling your anger constructively and not randomly. So really cool to hear your experience with that. Um, I'm curious on the your dynamic with your with your mentor. You mentioned like it, how does like my past and his past come together to influence our current relationship. So like how did it, like were you guys, did you guys like level set and like talk about it, like here we are now? How did you break down like what you're bringing towards the current relationship?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. It took the joke that I always say, I don't know if it's a joke, but the truth, that I say that I always share with people, it took about 7 years. Maybe five. Okay, maybe the last 2 years we're like very very like how it is now. Um, but I think, and this is what I just shared with somebody the other day. It's like when it comes to true relationship, true friendship, true any kind of like healthy relationship, it means that vulnerability, but it means that transparency. And it's like, how do I get to know you? I need to ask questions that are floating in my mind that I'm not sure if you're going to be okay with saying it, or I don't know if you're going to be okay hearing it. And so what I learned being around him was is that like when you love somebody so much, you want to know who they are as a human being, but you have to ask the questions. So how do I frame those questions in a way where you feel safe? So lots of times, I knew about like I would know a little bit about his past. Like I would hear things here and there like that. So I'd be like we'd be in the car, and I'd be like, because I would do that a lot. I want to ask you something, but I'm not sure if it's gonna upset you, right? And then lots of times you say, just say it. And then, and it's like, are you sure? Because most people, when they ask you this, you need a minute, right? And that's that growth with that friendship, because eventually you start getting those nonverbal signals like, oh, you know what, this person feels really comfortable around me, I'm just going to say it, because they know this space is so safe. But
Hmm.
I think in the beginning, because I'll give you, yeah, he won't mind, but like in the beginning, he would invite me to these different like gatherings, events, and parties, and get together, because he wanted to introduce me, because I was like new in LA, and I think it was a way for us to get to know each other. And lots of times I'd be like, no, like I'm okay, or hey, you want to come train? No, I'm okay. Like twice a week is good enough. I don't need another day. But eventually it was like, I like being around him. I feel like I'm a better human being when I'm around him. Let me just keep exploring this, right? Plus the other thing is that on the other side of it is I only had what I knew before. So I always tell people, one of my things that I share when I speak is live for the surprises, right? They don't always turn out how you want them, but it's like, wow, I didn't know I can experience that. So for me, he would invite me to things, and eventually I started saying yes. And by saying yes to not just only the event, but to me, it was saying yes to him, all of him. Because I think, to be honest, I think growing up, and I had to ask my family of this later, is I grew up thinking that Black people were a certain way. And I saw people in my, um, family, not my mom and dad particularly, but other family members treat Black people very poorly with much disrespect. And it made me fear making friends with the Black community. Not that I didn't have friends or like supported the community or did events and that kind of stuff, but I never truly had a friend until I met Orpheus. And I don't say that to say that Orpheus is my Black friend. I say this because Orpheus, I love him for all of him.
Hmm.
And part of that is his Blackness.
Hmm.
And it's taught me so much about empathy. It's taught me so much about myself and the work that I've had to do. Right. So I always say, when we're talking about truly building a relationship with somebody, it means truly holding space for that person, as uncomfortable as times may be, but you're going to get through it together. And it's a similar relationship to, like, like just the other day with my girlfriend and I, when we had an argument, it's like, oh gosh, this is so uncomfortable, but I love you so much that I need to go there, and I need to go there for myself too. And I need to go there for us. And then when, like, there's nothing better than that. Like, the friendships that I made in Los Angeles, um, like, not just Orpheus, but the other fighters. My one of my best friend, my other best friend, Henry Rodriguez. It's Orpheus, Henry, and me. Trifecta. But other men that I trained with. Thomas Rodriguez, Lex Pike, Pitar, all these people who, like, challenge me to be a better human being every day. But also they love me for who I am today. And that's tough, because, like, I was just thinking about this, like, the world that we live in right now, just even recently, like today in the gym, I heard a lady talking on the phone, and man, she's so mean. She's so mean, whether it was a client or a someone she's mentoring, like, for work. Like, you can speak to people a lot nicer, a lot kinder. You
Mm.
can still be assertive. You can still get the point across, but I'm just done with this. And so that was another thing that training with Orpheus gave me. I stopped being the passive aggressive. I'm in Minnesota. Sorry, Minnesota. Sorry. I'm gonna get in trouble. The Minnesota nice, like, we say things, but we don't really mean it. Screw that. I say what I mean. If I don't say it, then I don't mean it. You
Hmm.
know? Like
Yeah.
like, just say what you gotta say, and let's just live.
Yeah. No, I mean, you captured like the life cycle of a friendship really, really well. And one of the key problems I see in the work that I do, and some of the research on male loneliness is
Mm.
basically centered on the fact that a lot of male friendships are centered on experiences, and they stay only there. And so it's so cool
Mm.
to hear how you started a friendship based on experiences and then turned them into real, emotionally connected friendships through a process of sharing and being vulnerable. And I think that is so key, because you were able to basically find love in this really awesome community by sharing, being vulnerable, asking questions that were kind of scary, going to things outside of your comfort zone, kind of saying yes to things you're not familiar with, and made amazing friends. And now a lot of a lot of guys have that initial friction, and they go to their jujitsu class, they do the train, and they leave, and there's nothing. It's completely neutral, kind of
True.
empty experience. And so it's so important to um, build that kind of affective trust between two people, and it's built by sharing. There's this model called the Johari window model, and it's a 2 by 2 box of known to self, not known to self, known to others, not known to others.
Mm.
And so when it's known to you and known to others, that's just the open public area. And
Mhm.
we basically live there the whole time. And that's things like your background, your bio, where you're from, where you work. Like, it's known to you, it's known to others, but you really build friendships in the other boxes where it's known to you, not known to others, is like your hidden area. And you
Yeah.
start to share that, and that builds affective trust. And so when you're on a team context, or like building friend context, it's so important to move out of that public sphere. And you did just that with, like, asking questions and sharing and being vulnerable. So I think it really is a key solution for improving like male loneliness. Like, how do you make really good friends? Not just like the one friend you go to the football game with, or the one friend you do martial arts with, and there's nothing beyond that. So it's so cool to hear you share that full experience of like building amazing friends. It's like a full on playbook for like it's just amazing to make awesome friends. Like everyone wants that kind of community. So I really cool to hear you share that.
Thank you. Yeah, that I appreciate that so much because I didn't, you know, I never intended on leaving LA. It was I made a post on Facebook after I woke up that morning to what happened to George Floyd. And with the different relationships that I've been building, those transparent, vulnerable, lovely relationships, I had to take stock and realize like, no, like this is so inhuman. Even though I wanted this ideal world, like for certain people, that truly does not exist. And I didn't want to hear that before. So I made a post and at the end of it, I said, by any means necessary. And about 5 minutes later, the lady that I was, paying rent at, staying under her roof, she asked me to come out and talk to her. And she gave me 30 days and basically kicked me out of the place that I was living in.
Mm,
And so I never planned on leaving LA, but I came back to Minnesota and things have changed in my life here. And I'm making I love my life here now, but it's different.
mhm,
So now I am having a hard time finding those kind of relationships because I'm finding myself like somebody told me, they said, well, maybe you have to be the one now to start it.
mm,
Right. And
yep,
and I think I am, but a part of me wasn't sure if I was ready for it because I've always
mhm,
looked up to these other, in these other spaces where I just like take it up like a sponge, like,
mhm,
oh, I'm learning so much. But I guess that's the next level
yeah,
is recognizing your own power, recognize your own um superpower
mhm,
and how you can support other men or other people who need it. And
mhm,
so I want to touch on what you said because um I was reading something just this morning, but it was saying like the great work that men have to do is we like have to do the healing in ourselves. And I realized that lots of times the things that were holding me back from that beautiful relationship was asking those questions that I was afraid to identify, or even if I was questioning about my gender or like being a man, like I would always like whenever I hung out with these men, I would always say, "What does it mean to be a man?" You know, and and I always had this issue with like masculinity and like what is it? And now I have a better understanding for myself, but I still think that we all have to define it ourselves. And that's something that's changed because for me to say that, that means that I actually love and believe in myself. And before I couldn't do that. Before I would be like, well, a man is that, or a
mm,
man is this. And I take some of what my dad gave me. And I take some of this. And you do take you do take part of all the people that have been part of your life and all the people that are part of your life now. But at some point, it's so important for you to recognize like, who are you? Because you're going to be persuaded one way or the other. Society's going to persuade you, you know. And I was thinking about this too. Also, women, our relationships with women, right? We gotta do the work with our relationships with women too, because we got sometimes women say things like in LA. I got hurt so much because I believed in so much what the women were saying about me instead of listening to my own voice. I kept on always saying like, man, I want to have like a woman figure that and go out on dates and that kind of stuff, but treat me like the guys that I train with. Right? Let me just be myself. And every time I go on a date, it's like, you know, ghosting or, or like, something didn't feel like it was all there, but the more I got comfortable with myself, I was just myself. But the thing is I had to learn, like, if they don't love you, just keep moving, and then
Mm.
my mentor even told me that, he would tell me and I'd be like, and then 5 years later, it's like, it clicked,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No,
You
I think
know?
the concept of, like you said, there's so many different sources for where you can draw upon what masculinity is. And I think, like you said, starting out, it can be a really important reference point, like having a mentor, like pointing to that is someone I respect and would like to be like, and it can be really helpful. But I think it's what you said is really important is it's really critical to transition to your own ownership of this is who I am, and move on from like the cobbled together sources of what it means to be a good man. I think it's a great foundation to learn about it, but at some point taking ownership of like, okay, this is who I am, independent and separate from these other sources is key. So I think that's another really important concept you've identified for like what does it mean for me to be a man personally.
Yeah, because I mean, I think what it is that I was introduced to a variety of people, and I was introduced to a variety of spaces. And each time I had an issue with somebody, like my biases would go, ooh, like, why do they think this way? Because of the healthy relationships I was in, surrounding the conversations that we had, and my own healing journey, my own work that I was doing, I realized, wow, that voice is coming from someplace that that's a lot of ignorance in me. That's a lot of me saying, why aren't you like this? Right? Like, that's weird. I don't get it. Yeah, because you don't get it. But when I realized, like, no, 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 if I truly say I love people and I want to empathize with people, all of them, I need to take that mirror and look at myself and say, ooh, wow, why am I saying these things? So what do I got to do to truly love this person? And I'll just give a, like a bullet point or like a note. If someone wants to know, what do you do? Just listen. You know, if you turn off you for a while and listen and accept what they're offering, like, that's good enough. But the hard thing is for us to turn off us. So I think it's so important when we're talking about defining who we are, we do turn off those other voices,
Mm,
right? It's hard. It's super hard, but
yeah.
it's a beautiful thing when you get there. And
Hmm.
and I'll bring it back to the fighting. I know the time. I was like, he's gonna tell me about the time. So when we're fighting, Orpheus used to say, like I'd spar and, like, I'd be in my head so much, and we go out, we break bread, and he'd talk about it, he'd break it down. He said, Pete, they don't exist. I'm like, what? They're right there. Like I'm getting punched, like they're right there. And he's like, they don't exist. You just go out and you do your thing. And then, again, 5 years later, click. Oh, I'm having so much fun. This person doesn't even exist. So it can be, that could be a very dangerous thing in the wrong hands, because that means I'm destroying this person and they don't exist. I think Mike Tyson used to say that, right? I'm just going to destroy them. Mike Tyson has changed a lot. So I don't want to say any negative things about him, but I want to share, like, that mentality of living life, owning you, inspired and maybe subconsciously or consciously influenced by others, but learning to value you. How do we do that? So when I'm in spaces like this with you, Henry, where you say, hey, come share you. And I'm saying the same thing for you. I'm holding space for you. Like, oh, let me hear what this guy Henry has to say. You know, I love the work that he and you know the others are doing. How can I support that? You know, how can I lift them up? You know, that's all. You know, like that to me is what we all need in life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the importance, the significance of your own individuality in the face of all the different sources of change around you. I like the analogy of like turning off and listening to yourself just to check in. Is such an important reference point. Really, really appreciate your time and getting to meet you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I look forward to you know talking to you some more and helping support whatever it is that y'all are doing. And you know, I love you know being in this spaces. So I appreciate this opportunity, and
Awesome.
thank you so much. Yeah.
Of course. It was really great to meet you, and we'll be in touch for sure.
All right. Oh, where are you based?
I'm currently in New York.
Okay, cool. I wanted to double check. So
Yeah,
yeah.
we're
All
in New
right.
York. But
Awesome.
yeah,
Yeah. Let me
we'll be in
know.
touch over email. I have your email.
Okay. I'm down.
All righty. Have a
Have
good
a good
rest of the day.
you too. Have a good rest of the day.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. So, what do you think it means to be a good man?
I don't think there's a single definition.
Things that make up a good man are just the things that make up a good person. Someone who's honest, someone who's decent.
You're also willing to express yourself in a healthy way, and you're in touch with your emotions as well.